Hello, boys and girls. I'm the retired teacher. Today, I will read to you a story entitled Little Cliff and the Porch People. In the story, the main character, Little Cliff, for the first time goes on a very special errand. Let's read to find out who he meets along the way and what these people do to contribute to a special dish that his great-grandmom has prepared for her family. Let's begin. Little Cliff lived in a big frame house with his great-grandparents, Papa Joe and Mama Pearl. His mother had started teaching, and Cliff was too young to go to school with her every day. He was the only child at the big house, but Cliff wasn't lonely. He lived to sit on the top step that led to the long porch, where the rays of the hot Mississippi Delta sun danced across his chubby face. He sat playing there one Saturday, waiting for Papa Joe to take him to Greenville. Each Saturday, his papa would get Cliff to clean and shine up the old Buick, and away they'll go to Greenville, the Queen City of the Delta, just the two of them. As he drove slowly past all his friends on the front porches of their shotgun houses, Papa Joe would slow down to wave and talk. "Always speak up loudly to the grown folk," he'll say to Little Cliff on those special trips. And Little Cliff would try, though he was as shy as Papa Joe was talkative. In Greenville, Cliff and his papa would walk hand in hand down Washington Avenue. There they would buy sweet frozen custard and hot, crusty French bread. Cliff loved those times with Papa Joe in Greenville, the biggest city in the whole wide world. But on this Saturday, Papa Joe told Little Cliff that they could not go to Greenville because he had to visit and pray with Cousin Lulu Harris, who had not been doing well at all. After Cliff changed out of his good clothes, he didn't want to play on the porch anymore. He sat with his knees pulled up to his chin and dreamed about his trips with Papa. He would have daydreamed all day had he not heard Mama Pearl calling him. "Cliffy, Cliffy, come here this very minute," she yelled. He ran inside. There his great-grandmother sat on the sun porch, peeling big orange potatoes. "Mama, what you doing?" Little Cliff asked. "I'm peeling these nice potatoes so I can surprise your papa with his favorite dish, my candy sweet potatoes. I haven't made them since you've been with us." "Can I have a taste?" asked Little Cliff, so Mama Pearl gave him a slice of raw potato. Cliff bit a small piece, shook his head, and spit it out. It didn't taste like candy at all. Mama Pearl laughed. "Boy, just wait till supper," she said. "The taters will be as sweet as candy and as soft as cotton. Your Papa Joe says my skillet works magic." Little Cliff had never seen a magic skillet, but before he had time to ask about it, Mama Pearl had counted out 3 dimes and 2 nickels. "You're getting to be a big boy, so I want you to run up to Miss Scally's and get me a pound of her special butter. That butter is a must for my candy sweet potatoes. Hold the money in your fist and don't stop along the way, and get back here lickety-split." "Yes, ma'am." "Yes, Mama," Little Cliff answered. This was the first time that Mama Pearl had sent him through the neighborhood by himself. Even though he was just a little Afraid, he held the coins tightly in his fist and started walking down the graveled road as fast as his legs could go. He could see all his great-grandparents' friends. He knew that he had to speak to everyone he saw, just like Papa Joe always told him to do. But Mama Pearl had told him not to stop. Before he knew it, he was in front of his Uncle Abe Brown's house. Uncle Abe was cutting and trimming his many hedges. "Cliffy, come on over here, boy, and let Uncle show you how to shape up these hedges," he called. But little Cliff said, "No, sir, I gotta hurry to Miss Callie's and get some special butter for the candied potatoes that my Mama Pearl will cook in her magic skillet." Uncle Abe laughed. "Magic skillet, huh? Well, let me see what I can do to help this magic along." While little Cliff waited for the hedges, Uncle Abe went into his side shed. "Just what I've been looking for," he said as he came out holding a cloth bag filled with little dry kernels. "Here, Cliffy, take this nutmeg to Sis Pearl. It's bound to be good. Ain't out of no can, right off the tree." "Thank you, Uncle Abe," little Cliff yelled back as he ran on up the road, hoping that no one else would stop him. He was out of luck, for this Saturday the porches were full. Everybody was out, even Mr. Boot Nanny. Little Cliff waved at him. "Cliffy, stop on up here and sit a spell. This is a mighty good baseball game," Mr. Boot Nanny called. He loved baseball and always wanted to talk about his favorite team, the Brooklyn Dodgers. "Can't, Mr. Boot Nanny. Mama Pearl told me to get the special butter for her magic skillet and hurry back home," little Cliff replied without stopping. "She's making candied potatoes." Mr. Boot Nanny laughed. "Wait up, boy. Miss Pearl will sure enough need this cooking potion." And he called back into his house for his wife to bring him the big bottle of pure vanilla flavor and a small bottle to send with little Cliff. "Yes, sirree, Bob, this will do it. We got this flavor straight from New Orleans, where they know how to cook." He poured out a small amount into the little bottle. "Here now, take this on with you to Miss Pearl. She can't make no kind of sweet cooking magic without the pure stuff." So little Cliff stuck it in his pocket along with the nutmeg from Uncle Abe Brown. By now, Cliff could see Miss Callie's house from the road. Only a few houses separated him from the special butter, and one of them belonged to his cousin Savannah. He liked Cousin Savannah, but she always wanted to kiss him and feed him big slices of pound cake. As he got closer to her house, his heart sank. She was standing on the porch talking to old Lady Billard, who lived next door. "Cliffy, Cliffy, come here and let Cousin Savannah see you," she yelled. Little Cliff wanted to keep running, but he remembered all that Papa Joe had taught him about obeying the older people. So he stopped out by the very edge of her yard where he would be safe from her kisses, though he did like her pound cake. But that would not do for Cousin Savannah. She leaned down and called, "Come on in the yard and show your manners." Reluctantly, little Cliff obeyed. Just as he knew she would, Cousin Savannah gave him a big kiss and offered him a slice of pound cake, but he said no. "I gotta go get a pound of special butter from Miss Callie's for the candied potatoes," little Cliff explained. "Mama's going to cook them in her magic skillet." Cousin Savannah threw up her hands and let out a roaring laugh. "Now you just wait here. Let me add my touch." Cousin Savannah went into the house and came back with a small jar. "Cliffy, you take these tablespoons of fresh grease to your mama. I know Pearl. She'll use old grease in a minute, but I know this will make the taters good. Can't make magic in an iron skillet without it." Now little Cliff was getting loaded down with stuff to take home, and he had yet to get the special butter. but he finally made it to Miss Callie's, and was he glad. Her neat frame house was guarded by two very big and fierce-looking bulldogs, so little Cliff stood outside the gate, banging and yelling as loudly as he could. Miss Callie, you home? I got to get some special butter for Mama Pearl. The louder he yelled, the more the dogs growled and barked. At last, Miss Callie came to the front door. She waved a broom at the dogs and told little Cliff to unlock the gate and come on in. She didn't smile at all, just beckoned him to follow her. They walked through her house to a room with a big bed where she said, You wait right here, boy. She went into the kitchen and closed the door, leaving just enough space for him to peep in. In the middle of the spotless room was a milk churn, and on the table sitting under the window there were jars of sweet-smelling milk. Thick yellow cream had risen to the top in each jar. Little Cliff watched with big eyes as Miss Callie stood by the churn. She grabbed his long wooden stick and began to mutter as she moved it up and down. Dasher, dasher, long and tall, do your work, let special butter fall. Miss Callie's pace got faster and faster. Finally, she held up the dasher. She slowly placed her long index finger in the pile of yellow lumps and brought it to her tongue. Then he heard her say what he needed to hear. It's special now. She called little Cliff to come in the kitchen as she delicately took the yellow lumps and patted them into a bowl. Then she dropped the bowl into a bucket filled with ice water. It'll be all the more special after a while, Miss Callie said. She watched the ice bucket. Cliff watched the ice bucket. Finally, Miss Callie took a fork and stuck it into the butter. With just a small smile, she looked at little Cliff and said, Boy, your Mama Pearl's special butter is ready. Then she took the cold bowl and turned it over on a saucer. While Miss Callie wrapped the butter in a clean towel, little Cliff opened up his fist and showed her the dimes and nickels. Miss Callie took the coins and told little Cliff to scoot home. And he did, passing the same people on their porches, but they only waved as he ran back home with the special butter. Mama Pearl was standing on the front porch waiting for him. Baby, Mama was getting worried. What took you so long? She asked as she reached for the butter. So little Cliff had to explain that Uncle Abe Brown, Mr. Boot Nanny, and Cousin Savannah had all stopped him. Now the other stuff came piling out of his pockets. The nutmeg, the vanilla flavor, and the jar with the grease. Yes, Lord, she said, this will do just fine. The old skillet is red hot and smoking. I done already covered the taters with sugar, and now this. This is just what the skillet need to get her magic. Mama, can I watch? Little Cliff anxiously asked. You sure can, boy, she replied. But in the small kitchen, Cliff was disappointed when all he saw was an ordinary black iron skillet. Where was the magic? Little Cliff watched his Mama Pearl humming took the jar that Cousin Savannah had sent and poured the tablespoons of fresh grease into the hot skillet. He jumped back as the grease made hot rain fly from the skillet. Mama Pearl laughed. Then she poured the whole bowl of sugar, soaked raw potatoes into the hot skillet, and what a sound they made. He watched real close as she took an old coffee top with punched in holes and grated Uncle Abe's nutmeg right from the tree over the potatoes. They still looked the same to him. Now he watched as he poured in all the New Orleans pure vanilla flavor that Mr. Boot Nanny had sent. The pile of potatoes still looked the same, but the smell in the kitchen was beginning to change. While he savored the aroma of mingled vanilla and nutmeg, little Cliff watched as Mama Pearl took her large knife and cut off big chunks of the special butter. It fell on top of the potatoes and started to melt. She covered them turned and began to walk away. "What's it gonna do? Do it, Mama," little Cliff asked as he trailed behind her. She just kept walking, but she did say, "The skillet's magic works best when we leave it all to herself. Just wait, yes sir, just wait till supper. You'll see." Little Cliff followed her voice out of the kitchen and then went outside to the front porch to wait. Soon the good smells from the kitchen reached him on the porch. Cliff could hardly stand it, but Mama Pearl was waiting on Papa Joe. "I see the car now," little Cliff yelled at last, running to meet his great-grandfather. He grabbed Papa Joe's hand as he got out of the car. Papa, we're going to eat candy potatoes," Cliff said as they walked into the house. Mama Pearl had already set the table. Little Cliff hoped that Papa Joe would not say a long prayer. His papa had almost finished when they heard a loud knock at the front door. Papa Joe looked at Mama Pearl, wondering who'd be coming to visit. "Boy, get the door," he said. When little Cliff opened the door, was he ever surprised? Standing outside were all the porch people he had met while on the way to Miss Callie's. Uncle Abe Brown, Mr. Boot Nanny, and Cousin Savannah. They had come to taste the candy potatoes that had been cooked in the magic skillet. Of course, they felt they had added to the magic themselves. Papa Joe and Mama Pearl stood up and made room for them all. Everyone laughed and talked as Mama Pearl served them heaping plates of candied potatoes, cured ham, corn and peas, turnip greens, and hot cornbread. She told them how little Cliff had frowned at the taste of raw potatoes. So now they watched as he slowly took his first bite. This time he didn't frown. He could hardly believe how soft and sweet those cold, hard potatoes had become. He sat up in his chair and said, "Mama, we ain't going to ever get rid of the magic skillet. It works the best magic in the whole wide world." "You sure right, boy," everyone said, laughing as they began to eat. And little Cliff ate along with them. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful book. You have a good day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.